I saw 14 new releases in the month of April. Some were good, some were bad. Let's talk about it. What's up, flick fans? Welcome back to the channel. As always, we're talking the best and worst of whatever month we're talking about. This time, it's April. I saw 14 new releases, and there were still plenty of movies that I did not get a chance to see. So if you want to vote for what movie I'm going to see and talk about on Letterboxd, these are some of your choices, movies I want to watch. Be sure to get in that comment section down below. And if you enjoy these videos and you want to drop a like, that'd be cool. But here we go. The big question is April better than March? And then at the end of April,
it's gonna be May.
Let's start with Guy Ritchie. Very distinct style. I did not know how he was going to bring that style to The Covenant. I wasn't able to see this opening weekend. I just saw it a few days back, and you know what? I'm really sad I didn't get a chance to review this movie because I thoroughly enjoyed the experience. Now, I'm a sucker for war films, especially those with a really hardcore emotional center. And that's what this movie has. Jake Gyllenhaal plays the main character and Sergeant John Kelly, and the premise is really interesting. It's based on a true story. It takes place in Afghanistan, where a local interpreter basically risks his own life to carry this injured sergeant across miles of grueling terrain. And then Kenley learns that the person who saved his life was not given safe passage into America and decides, you know what? I'm going to go back and I'm going to risk my life for the person who saved mine. And I thought that, turning point in the film would come a lot sooner, but we get a lot of build-up to that moment where we learn about these characters. You get Guy Ritchie's distinct style, but that being said, it didn't fully feel like a Guy Ritchie movie. It had a different type of feeling to it. It had a score that was extremely memorable. Maybe it's where I just saw the movie, but I'm still thinking about that score. And when we get into those action-heavy moments, they're good, they're well made, but you're still feeling the emotion between the characters because you just know the circumstances are as dire as they could possibly get. And I think the fact that this is based around a true story, it does help its case. But it's also just a really well-made movie and a film that I was just feeling so much while I was watching, and the relationship between Ahmad and Kenley, it's elevated by the performances. Obviously, Jake Gyllenhaal, he's one of the best actors working right now. Maybe there were some moments in the middle where I was thinking, okay, if we could get to that turning point just a bit quicker, but those are minor criticisms. I thought this was a great film. I am so mad I didn't review it.
What is wrong with you?
Ghosted. Well, this is from the director of Rocket Man. It stars Chris Evans, Ana de Armas. I thought it would be a lot better than it actually was. The experience, there's some moments in here that I actually laughed at. There's one sequence in the middle. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. There are cameos galore, and I'm thinking the whole time, this is entertaining. Why is the rest of the movie not like this? But once they get past the really cliche, poorly done rom-com relationship at the beginning and the action starts to happen, the movie picked up. But the further we progress, the more I'm sitting back thinking, I want Chris Evans to do things that aren't this. I want him to take chances in his career. I want him to do things like Snowpiercer and Scott Pilgrim and Gifted. He's done it, and I thought he would continue to do it, but this is just like a cameo fest, relying on lines and moments that we know from Chris Evans' other movies. You have Ana de Armas, who's fresh off an Oscar nomination, and she's doing this, and I did not think her performance was all that great. And it's crazy because I know the talent's there. The actor, the actress, and the director. So what happened?
What happened?
I'd like to ghost this movie for the rest of my life. I'll be here all week. I know some people had fun with it. Makes for a nice background watch, I guess, but I just think it's a bad film. I saw SISU.
What about the chip?
I kept seeing the trailers for this movie, and they're like, from the people that brought you John Wick, or from the studio, or whatever it was. But this time, the dog doesn't die. And I'm like, it's pretty cheesy marketing. I saw the rating was an R rating. I expected a lot of blood and gore, but I didn't expect kills that were this impactful. I didn't expect a story that was slightly more interesting than I thought it would be, right? I think that is more so to do with the atmosphere, the time period, the fact that he's going up against Nazis. I think that makes it a little more fun. It's simple, and I think that simplicity is going to give some people issues. They're going to watch and be like, it's taking too long to get from point A to point B. But in the midst of that, you get some crazy, mesmerizing moments from this main character and some action sequences that are going to be memorable I would say until the end of the year, I'm going to look back on this and say that was a fun experience because it just treated these moments, each individual one, like it was supposed to be the most impactful moment in the film. And I think that's an example of great filmmaking and director Jomari Hollander, who really does a nice job with this, man. Again, I think the simplicity works in its favor. You're going to have some crazy edge of your seats, some shocking moments that are full of blood, gore, and violence, and some really cool sequences where people are getting revenge on those that were ruthless and mean. All of that being said, I'm going to put SISU on the good tier. I think this is a good time. Paint. Owen Wilson. Bob Ross. Well, not really. That's what I thought it would be from the first trailer. I saw it. I'm like, this is basically just going to be a Bob Ross biopic, but it's not Bob Ross. It's a different story. It's a more fictionalized story. This one kind of focuses on a relationship. You have Owen Wilson, who is probably a more edgy version of what we know as Bob Ross, but it's not that. It's something a little different, a little too different at times.
Wow.
His name's Carl Nargle. He thinks he has it all. Fans, looking at every single stroke until a younger, better artist steals everything that he loves, and it sends him down this path, a path filled with surprising sequences, but sequences that didn't fully captivate me. Moments where I'm like, they could have done a better job with that. A performance from Owen Wilson that is good, but exactly what I expected from this performance is what I got. And there was nothing more to it to make the experience, I would say, one that's worth having.
Wow.
But it also it looks cheap. The movie looks cheap. The shots look kind of cheap. The performances are solid. Even the supporting cast, people don't even recognize. They were okay. But the movie as a whole is not what you're expecting it to be, and not in a good way. And because of that, I have to put Paint also on the bad tier.
Mommy's with the maggots now.
Evil Dead Rise. The opening title sequence is one of the best opening title sequences I've ever seen. It's absolutely phenomenal. And then you're watching that first scene and you get to the end of the movie and you realize how everything's constructed. You're like, okay, it's even better than I thought it was. I had a great time with Evil Dead Rise. Genuinely a great time. It was bloody, it was scary, but not in a jump scare reliant type of way. It's more so we're just building the creep factor with this mother who is going crazy. Absolutely insane. The kids, they have every right to be scared. Now, you do have those moments where, there's this big dark cavern and one of the kids is like, I'm just going to go look in the cavern because I'm stupid. Why am I doing it? I don't know, because I want this movie to exist.
You what?
It's fine. It's typical horror movie behavior. You expect something like that to happen. It happens a few times in this movie, but once Mama goes bad, once Mama gets possessed, it all goes downhill for the characters, but it goes uphill for the audience because of the practical effects, because of, like I said, the blood and the gore. That is just super entertaining. It's what you want from a horror movie, and the end sequence is really, really fun. The movie's just fun to watch as a whole. Obviously, going to be nitpicks here and there, but if you're an Evil Dead fan, I think Evil Dead Rise is worth watching. It's going on the great tier. As someone who doesn't overwhelmingly love horror, this is one of those I'm not going to forget. The Last Kingdom, Seven Kings Must Die. For non-fans of this franchise, for people who did not follow the series, you're not going to care about this, so if you want to skip it, but this is my chance to tell you, please watch The Last Kingdom on Netflix. It's an amazing series, and then cap it off with this film. And I get the complaints about this movie. They took some of the characteristics of the characters, changed them just a little bit. They kind of undid a few things that Uhtred did at the end of the prior season. They tried to cap off so many plot threads and story points, and there's a lot going on. I think that's going to be an issue for some, but they had to do it, and for some reason, they chose to do a movie, so they only had 2 hours to do it, but I think they did a nice job all the way around. It wasn't amazing. It didn't blow me away. I think the issue here is the fact that they didn't decide to do another season and they did a movie, but for fans of the franchise, please go watch it. For non-fans, watch The Last Kingdom. All in all, this finale movie is going on the good tier. I think it's a good experience. Kevin Heffernan is awesome. I really enjoy Super Troopers. Super Troopers is one of those movies that kind of defines your childhood if you watch it at too young of an age, which is what I did. Shouldn't have watched it, but I did, and I thought that sense of humor was great, and I still think the movie holds up. I was interested to see what Quasi was going to be. I saw the cast. I said, Brian Cox? fresh off of Succession. Kevin Heffernan, who I like in front of the camera, super entertaining. This play on Quasimodo, the hunchback, you can do a lot of comedic things there. He yearns for love, but he finds himself in the middle of this feud between the Pope and the King of France, and oh my gosh, they're going to play on this for comedy. It's a classic satire. It's a classic satire that we don't get much of nowadays. Could it have a Monty Python flair to it? I thought maybe it could, and then I watched the movie. And I didn't laugh. Really at all. One or two chuckles. Some moments that they play for humor from... I didn't really laugh.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
I thought the hunchback trope, it became tired after a while. The movie looks so cheap. You're going to do something like this, you cannot make it look like, not even a straight-to-TV, like a straight-to-DVD 90s sequel look in 2023. It looks so cheap, and because of that, I mean, you could take that and make it to where it kind of helps the comedy out. It looks so cheap, it's going to make it funnier, and it's just the jokes for me. The jokes, the one-liners, the silliness, the fact that they made the lore of Quasimodo so uninteresting, and the gags that kept coming back over and over, the repetition of it all, it wore me out. This movie wore me out. I didn't really laugh hardly at all. Maybe I was in a bad mood while I watched, but man, I thought this is borderline awful. I'm gonna put it on the awful tier. I thought it was awful. Renfield, Nicolas Cage as Dracula. That's cool. I like that. That's cool. And anytime it was Renfield, Nicholas Hoult, and then Nicolas Cage as Dracula, and they're doing that exploration of the backstory. They do some cool things at the beginning. They put it in black and white. I'm like, it's classic Dracula. And then they bring the story into modern times, and when we're focused on Renfield, that was really interesting, going to therapy, realizing I'm in a bad relationship, this and that. That's funny, and I chuckled. But then we get to Awkwafina's side of things, and that part of the story just took away from all of the brilliance of what we were getting over here. Boo! I like Chris McKay as a director. Well, I'm getting to where I think he's solid, right? But, you know, this is not the Lego Batman movie. This is something that they tried to bring to the big screen, but there were too many ideas at play. Awkwafina's police storyline, and then the villains in the city, the rules of this town, and how the cops operated, the fact that they were getting away with things, and we don't even get any repercussions by the end of the movie. They just kind of forget about certain moments, and I like the fact that they try to shift the focus back to Renfield and Dracula, but why take the focus away from them to start with? Doesn't make any sense. All in all, Nicolas Cage was great, but the movie is meh. Suzume, beautiful anime. I thought this was gorgeous to look at. The color correction, the shots, I mean, the way this was composed, the animation, the art style, a gorgeous film. Your Name, obviously, is one of my favorite animes of all time, so I was really excited for this. The story itself, there's some really quirky things in this anime. A guy that runs around as a chair, the character of the cat, which you don't really know the role of at first, and you start to figure it out, but this concept of having to close these doors so these natural disasters don't happen all across the country is fascinating. And then you get to travel to different locations all throughout the country, and the characters become more interesting. I still slightly have an issue with our main character in Suzume becoming so attached to where she would do anything and give up anything, and I'm like, not a lot of time has passed, but I'm going to forgive that because the experience was just so... It was kind of awe-inspiring, to be honest with you, and I had a great time in a packed theater. I'm going to put Suzume on the great tier. I thought it was a great experience. Russell Crowe in The Pope's Exorcist is great. He plays this priest, and I just thought he was the most entertaining he's been in a long time. I actually found him to be entertaining in Thor the Dark World. Thor the Dark World? No. Thor Love and Thunder last year, even though I clearly wanted more from his character, but he takes that quirkiness, tones it down, and becomes a little bit more epic in this movie, and he's taking down demons one cool priest thing at a time.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Unfortunately, the movie that he's in was less interesting. I actually think the style's pretty cool. Julius Avery's a good director. I was so looking forward to seeing what he was going to do next, and it looked like a lot of people showed out for this film. I think like an $18 million budget. It's at 63 right now. That's pretty good. We're going to get Pope's Exorcists 2, 3, and 4. The Pope is exorcised now. Pope's exorcising. But the story was kind of uninteresting. The dialogue was really generic. There was nothing special about who or what they were fighting. I loved the fact that the possessed kid was screaming out some crazy stuff. That was cool. That was edgy. But it didn't do anything for the story that was surrounding them. And the story was so uninteresting. Unfortunately, I didn't have the best experience. So I'm putting the movie on the meh tier, even though I put his performance on the great tier. Peter Pan and Wendy. This movie, Peter Pan and Wendy, is being review bombed. It was actually review bombed, I think, like right before it dropped on Disney Plus. So people were just spamming it with 1 stars before it even had a culminated score. And I know it because I went and looked because people were talking about it. I'm like, oh, this has a 4 on IMDb, but it's not out yet. How does that work? And I get it. If you don't like the movie and you want to be very cliche and give something 1 or 10 stars, be my guest. Give every movie 1 or 10 stars. But that's dumb. That's just dumb. It's just dumb. You have to be able to parse through things that have nothing to do with the movie itself. And that's why it's being review bombed. Now, that being said, let's look at the actual film for a second and do away with the nonsense surrounding it. The movie itself I have issues with, okay? I don't think Peter Pan was very good in a Peter Pan movie. That's an issue, all right? I don't know if it was a direction problem. I'm not sure if this, performance was something that was the fault of the performer or the fault of the director. I'm not sure. I'm still trying to figure it out, to be honest with you. Wendy was good. Jude Law as Hook was good. And the things that they bring to life from the classic story were actually really well done. I like the atmosphere. I like the tone of this movie. I actually wanted more of David Lowery's direction, especially with Peter Pan. But in terms of David Lowery as a director, you expect there to be an edginess, a darkness that I couldn't fully get, but I could still tell that, oh, this is a better director than what they usually get for these types of movies, or one willing to take more risks. And, you think of the technical aspects like the score and the visual effects. At times, it did kind of feel like a TV movie, but the score is amazing. So some great aspects to Peter Pan and Wendy. It's just some of the supporting performances, some moments where it slows down in the middle. And unfortunately, I didn't love the performance from Peter Pan. I didn't love it. So because of that, I'm only going to put this on the okay tier. But as a Disney live-action remake, we have had much worse than this one. Like Pinocchio, that movie sucks. Beau is Afraid. I'm still thinking about Beau is Afraid. And that's like, I still don't know what to think about Beau is Afraid, but I'm still thinking about Beau is Afraid. How does that make sense? I have no clue. Ari Aster is that guy. He's that director. He's going to just kind of boggle your mind and make you sit and just lose it, slowly lose it.
Just lose it.
That being said, Joaquin Phoenix's performance, incredible. I thought there were aspects to this story that were just so fascinating. It's a mad world that he's living in. Obviously, some of the things he is seeing, and they're probably not actually happening. It is a slow descent into madness, but clearly he's in a world where some of this craziness is happening. That fascinated me. Yeah, the idea of this kind of feels like 4 movies in one. You have so many different ideas at play. It's a fever dream from Ari Aster, a movie that doesn't necessarily answer all or a lot of your questions, and the way that it wraps up, it slowly gets more ridiculous as it goes, and that frustrated a lot of people, but it's just made so well. So my mind's divided, my brain is mush, and I still don't know how to feel about this. I appreciate it, I respect it, but I still don't really know how to feel about it. So many people hated Beau is Afraid. Completely understand why, but I can't say I hated it. But I also don't know if I want to say it's a good movie. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make an individual tier for it. Add a row. Call it Beau. I'm going to put that right there. That looks pretty good. Make it gray. Bland. Tell me how I'm supposed to breathe with no air. This is a movie I was so excited for. Ben Affleck and Matt Damon returning to write a movie together, which we haven't gotten very often over the last 20 plus years, but that worked to its advantage because of the dialogue, man. The snappy nature of the conversations, the back and forth, the Wolf of Wall Street type feel, but a very different movie, very different ground that they're covering. Obviously, if you're a Michael Jordan fan, you're going to love this film, man. It dives into the backstory of Nike, where Nike came from, how they got to where they are today, but most importantly, the creation of the Air Jordan shoe. It is the money ball for basketball, and the way it describes this entire situation with the amazing cast highlighted by Chris Tucker, Jason Bateman, obviously Damon and Affleck, and then revolving around Viola Davis and her character, and this Oscar-worthy, at least nomination-worthy performance. I would say performances in this movie. I mean, what's not to like? And even if you're not a sports fan, I think you're going to be kind of riveted by the dialogue. I was a massive fan of this. I think this is the best movie of the month. I wouldn't spoil my decision there, but I'm going to throw it on the awesome tier because why not, man?
Wow.
I watched Mario again. I still have some issues that I had the first time. I think the idea of putting non-Mario music, the pop songs that Illumination always does, I'm like, why do you do that? That's so dumb, such a horrible decision. Yes, the story is rushed, and yes, it's not the most fleshed out story I've ever seen. There were opportunities to build on characteristics of characters and dive into those relationships, and we montage our way through to see Donkey Kong and his people, and there were some things in there I felt they could have done better, but I had a great time the second time. I had a good time the first time, and I'm slowly leaning towards, not being as harsh on this film as I was the first time. Some of my issues are going to stick, and they're not going to go away, but you know what? I think the Super Mario Brothers knows what it is. It does it right, and if I had to redo my Illumination tier list, I would probably put it higher. I would say that this is one of the best Illumination movies because it knows what it is. That's why I really appreciated watching it for the second time, and the characters, they stand out. The voices were much better than I thought they were going to be. Yeah, Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong, okay, but Chris Pratt was better than I thought he would be. Bowser is amazing. Jack Black steals the show, and I've had fun every time I've watched this movie, and so I think that makes it a good experience for me, and I'm going to shock the world here, and I'm going to go good tier for Mario. I think it did what it needed to do, flaws included. Bonus movie. If you guys can't tell, my hair's slightly different. I re-recorded this video because I wanted to add in a movie that I finally got to see. It's Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. I wanted to slide this in. That's why I waited an extra day to upload this video. I'm so happy I did. This cast is amazing. They are so good in this coming-of-age story that really focuses on this young female character who's just kind of trying to learn what it's like to grow up, become a woman, and sometimes kids, they want to grow up faster than they actually are, but those experiences are ones that they should be able to cherish. But there's also this family dynamic that's happening where you have one side that's Christian, one side that's Jewish, and both sides, they are trying to, conform her to believe certain things. She doesn't know what to believe. She's torn. So there are so many elements there that make this much more than I thought it was on its surface, but it's all carried by Abby Ryder-Fortson, who's amazing in this movie. I'm so glad she got an opportunity after Ant-Man. She was great in the Ant-Man movies. She is phenomenal in this film. Kathy Bates, Rachel McAdams, Benny Safdie. Her friend group is really solid. I am not the target audience for this, obviously, but I can really respect what this movie is doing and showcasing so many just real things that these young girls are going through. So, and the great filmmaking behind it. It's actually the director, Kelly Fremon Craig from Edge of 17, so I knew it was going to be charming. It absolutely was, and I think I'm going to put it on the great tier. Really good film. I've talked enough today. If you want to support this video, the best way to do that would be by dropping that thumbs up down below. I appreciate it. And comment, what movie did I miss? What is your list? Leave those thoughts down below. Obviously, at the bottom, it's going to be Quasi. That movie sucks. Followed by Paint and Ghosted in the right order. The Pope's Exorcism, right where it needs to be. And Renfield, right where it needs to be. This is boring so far. We're going to switch something up. On the OK tier, we have Peter Pan. On the Beau tier, we have Beau. Then we get to the fun part. Let's talk about some of these really good movies. But you know what? I'm going to stick with this. I'm boring today. It's Super Mario, followed by The Last Kingdom, followed by SISU. Let's at least switch something up on the great tier, and we're going to move Suzume up to the top. That means Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, followed by Evil Dead Rises. In the 3 spot, The Covenant, which is just a great movie. I am so sorry I didn't review that. At number 2, Suzume. At number 1, it's Air. I mean, this is a movie that I can't wait to watch when it comes to Amazon Prime. I believe like next week-ish. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. These monthly tier lists are so much fun. Sorry it was a day later than usual, but stay tuned. We got some fun videos this week. Maybe ranking the Marvel movies, and a spoiler review for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I'll see you soon.